He told me he loved me. He planned our future, picked the wedding date, helped choose the cake flavor, and then he was just gone. No warning, no goodbye. And what I found after that, I still don't have words for it. I used to think I'd remember my engagement as one of the happiest times of my life. The way he proposed was simple, but beautiful. We were at this quiet spot by the lake where we always went to talk. He brought a little picnic and just did it. No theatrics, no audience, just us. And when he asked, I cried so hard I couldn't even say yes for the first few seconds. I just nodded while wiping my face and laughing. We'd been together 3 years by then, met through mutual friends at a birthday party. I remember thinking he looked like someone who had secrets, not in a bad way, just quiet and observant. The kind of guy who notices everything but doesn't say much unless it matters. He was thoughtful, patient, the kind of man who memorized my coffee order, remembered the date of my first big job interview, and left notes in my coat pocket when I had a bad week. For the longest time, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. Once we got engaged, I threw myself into wedding planning, Pinterest boards, venue tours, tasting appointments. He was more passive about it, always saying, "Whatever makes you happy, babe," which I took as support. I figured maybe he just wasn't into flowers and linen samples. Not every guy is, right? His family lived out of state, and he always said they weren't close. I didn't push. I never met his parents, but he said they were complicated. That felt fair. Mine weren't exactly saints either. We set the date for the following spring. Everything was going smoothly. At least I thought it was. We signed the venue contract. I bought the dress. My best friend cried when she saw me in it. We mailed the save the dates. He even helped me stuff envelopes one night while we drank wine on the floor and talked about honeymoon ideas. Bali was his first choice. I wanted Greece. Sometimes I look back and wonder, was he already planning his exit then? Or did something change along the way? There were tiny things I brushed off. He never wanted to post photos of us. Said he didn't use social media much, and he always kept his phone face down. But I trusted him. God, I trusted him so much. That was my biggest mistake. Because even then, even in the calm, the normal, the happy, something wasn't quite right. I just didn't want to see it. I think the first time I felt it, really felt it, was during a meeting with the caterer. We were sitting across from this sweet older woman going over appetizer options, and I looked over at him while she asked about dietary restrictions. He wasn't even pretending to listen, just scrolling through his phone under the table like he couldn't be bothered. I nudged him and he gave me that forced half smile like, "Sorry, babe, I'm here." But he wasn't. Not really. It started happening more often. He'd come home later than usual from work, always with a believable excuse. Traffic was hell. Last-minute meeting. I had to help a guy on my team. I never had proof he was lying, but it felt off. He used to call me on his lunch breaks, even if it was just for 5 minutes. Then he stopped altogether. Said he was too slammed lately. At night, he was different too. Quieter. Distant. Like his body was next to me on the couch, but his mind was somewhere far away. I'd ask what was wrong and he'd say, "Nothing, just tired." That phrase became his shield. Just tired. Every time I reached out emotionally, that's what I got in return. One night, I caught him standing in the hallway with his phone, whispering. When he saw me, he flinched like a kid caught doing something bad. Said it was a work call and shut it down fast. But I remember how pale he looked. Like someone who knew they were playing with fire. Still, I rationalized everything. That's the part that still haunts me. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him, because the alternative would have shattered the illusion I built my future on. We started arguing more, mostly about nothing. I'd ask him to help me finalize the guest list, and he'd get defensive. "Why are you always on my case?" And I'd think, what the hell just happened? I asked you to choose napkin colors, not confess to murder. The emotional temperature in our apartment shifted, like some invisible thermostat had been cranked to cold. But I kept wearing sweaters and pretending everything was fine. I even joked to my maid of honor, "He's just having a groomzilla moment," like I was the dramatic one for noticing the distance between us growing wider by the day. But inside I was scared. And that fear only grew when I realized I didn't know his coworkers. Not really. I didn't know his boss's name, never visited his office, never got invited to any work parties. He said it was because the company was low-key and didn't do events. I believed that too. I believed everything, right, because I loved him. But something inside me had already started whispering. Something's wrong, he's hiding something. I just wasn't ready to hear it yet. 2 weeks. That's how long before the wedding he vanished. It started with silence, a missed call, a text left on read, and then nothing. No goodbye, no fight, no explanation. He just disappeared like a ghost in our own home. I remember the exact moment it hit me. I'd just come back from a final dress fitting, still had the damn garment bag slung over my arm. I opened the apartment door expecting to find him on the couch like usual. But everything was gone. His shoes by the door? Missing. His coat from the hook? Gone. Drawers? Half empty. Closet? Half cleared. His razor and toothbrush? Vanished. The only thing he left behind was his key on the kitchen counter, sitting on top of the sticky note that said, "I'm sorry." That was it. No name, no explanation, no way to reach him. I stared at it for I don't know how long, just stared, like my brain couldn't compute what I was seeing. Then I picked up my phone and called him, straight to voicemail. I called again, and again, and again. The line disconnected sometime that night, just went dead. Socials? Blank. Instagram deactivated. No stories, no trace. Just a memory hole where his life used to be. I texted his sister. She replied with a question mark. What do you mean he left? His cousin didn't know either. One of his groomsmen actually laughed at first, thought I was pulling a prank. But nobody had heard from him, not a single person. We were supposed to get married in 12 days. 12 days. I called the hotel, I called the airline for our honeymoon. I even called the damn ring company to see if he'd canceled anything. Nothing. It was like he'd scrubbed himself from reality overnight. At first, I thought maybe he'd had a breakdown. Maybe his mental health had spiraled and this was some kind of crisis. I called hospitals, checked the news, mugshots, God help me, even local morgues. Nothing. My best friend stayed over the first few nights. I barely slept. I kept the bathroom light on because I didn't want to sit in the dark and feel that silence crawling over me. I had to start calling people, friends, family, vendors. Do you know what it feels like to tell 100 people the wedding's off? And not even be able to explain why? I lied at first, said we postponed, told the florist there was a family emergency, told my aunt he had food poisoning and had to fly home for treatment. I couldn't face the shame, couldn't bear the pity in their voices. But the truth was simple. He left. He didn't say goodbye, and I had no idea if he was dead or just done with me. I couldn't even cry properly. It felt like grief, but it also felt like insanity. Who does that? Who plans a wedding, poses for engagement photos, helps pick out appetizers, and then just walks out? I sat in our empty apartment and stared at the key he left behind. The ring was still on my finger. I wore it for days, like some delusional idiot who thought maybe this was temporary. But it wasn't. And I think a part of me knew, deep down, that he hadn't just run away. He was hiding something big. The morning after he left, I woke up thinking it had all been a dream. For half a second, I reached for my phone to text him something stupid, like, "Do you want bagels or eggs?" Then I saw the empty side of the bed and it all came crashing back. I didn't eat for 3 days. I tried. My best friend brought soup, takeout, wine, whatever she could carry. I just moved it around with a fork. My stomach was a fist. My hands kept shaking. The worst part wasn't even the heartbreak. It was the humiliation. I had to tell my parents. They were confused at first, angry. My mom thought I was joking. My dad asked if he was in jail. Then the disappointment set in. That awful, tight-lipped kind that makes you feel like a failure just for being fooled. Did you not see any signs? Are you sure he didn't just get cold feet? Maybe something happened to him. No one knew what to do with the truth, especially me. I canceled everything. The venue, the florist, the DJ. I had to pay the photographer's cancellation fee out of pocket. Thousands gone. I returned the dress, or tried to. They only gave me 30% back. I stood in line at FedEx with a giant box of customized favors and welcome bags we'd made for guests, and all I could think was, this was supposed to be the best day of my life. Now it was just trash. People started whispering. One of his groomsmen posted a vague Instagram story like, "Some people really aren't who they say they are," and I had to disable comments on my page. Everyone wanted answers I didn't have. But silence? Silence is its own kind of violence. I reread old texts looking for signs, listened to saved voicemails. I started wondering if I did something, if I was too much, too eager, too focused on the wedding and not on him. Tried to remember the last time we kissed, and it felt real. I spiraled. I started drinking more. Not blackout, just numbing. 1 glass of wine turned into 4. I'd fall asleep with the TV on and wake up still in my dress from the day before. Showering felt like a punishment. I hated myself. I hated my apartment. I hated every single friend who said, "You'll find someone better." I didn't want someone better. I wanted the man I thought I was marrying. The one who made me grilled cheese when I was sick. The one who held my hand under the table when I was nervous. The one who picked out our goddamn wedding playlist. But now I wasn't even sure he existed. Because what kind of man builds a life with you, down to the seating chart, and then disappears like you're nothing? And that question became an obsession. I couldn't let it go. And that's when I made a mistake. One night, drunk and angry, I opened Facebook and typed his name. And everything I thought I knew shattered. I don't know why I hadn't done it sooner. Maybe a part of me didn't want to know. Maybe I was afraid that if I dug deep enough, I'd find something I couldn't unsee. But that night, I broke. It was almost 2 a.m. I'd had 3 glasses of wine, maybe 4. The wedding folder on my desktop was still there, untouched, haunting, the RSVP list, the playlists, our engagement photos where I'm laughing and he's looking at me like I'm his whole world. I opened Facebook. My hands were sweating as I typed his full name. And there he was. Same face, same eyes, same stupid dimple, but not the same life. His profile was private, but the header image was public. A photo of him standing on a beach, arms around a woman I had never seen before, and 2 kids. 2 kids? A boy who looked about 6, a girl in pigtails who couldn't have been older than 4. All of them in matching outfits like one of those picture-perfect holiday cards. I stared at it for so long I forgot to breathe. Then I clicked on the woman's name. Her profile was public. Her last name matched his. Her married name. I went cold, like bone deep, number. There were posts, family outings, birthdays, beach trips, a happy anniversary post from just a few months earlier, with him holding her hand across a restaurant table. 10 years with the love of my life, she'd written. Thank you for being my best friend, my rock, my everything. 10 years. That was 3 years before I even met him. My heart wasn't just broken, it was humiliated. He wasn't single, he wasn't estranged from his family. He didn't have a complicated relationship with his parents. He had a wife, a family, a whole other life. I felt like I was choking. My ears were ringing. I think I threw up. I don't even remember walking to the bathroom, just the taste of acid and the way my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I went back to the photos, zoomed in on his wedding ring. It was the same hand he used to hold mine with in the car. Same ring finger I'd been planning to put a band on myself. And then it hit me, all those excuses. Why I never met his parents. Why he never wanted to post about us. Why his work trips always fell on holidays or weekends. He wasn't working late. He was going home. To her. To them. Every memory I had twisted into something ugly. Every kiss. Every fight. Every I love you. All of it fake. Or worse. Real, but borrowed. Like I was some sick vacation from his real life. I started sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe. Full-on animal sounds. I ripped the save the date off my fridge and just stared at our names side by side. I wanted to scream. I wanted to burn everything. I wanted to disappear. And still, part of me thought, maybe I should message him. Maybe there's an explanation. But I didn't. I messaged her. I didn't say much, just, hi, I think we need to talk. I was supposed to marry your husband. And I hit send. She didn't reply right away. I sat there all night, watching the little seen notification sit beneath my message like a lit fuse. My heart wouldn't stop pounding. I thought maybe she blocked me, or maybe she knew, or maybe this was all some twisted misunderstanding, and I was the one who had gotten it wrong. But the next morning, my phone buzzed. A single message. Who are you? I stared at it for a while. Then I started typing. I told her everything. 3 years together, the proposal, the wedding date, the dress fittings, the apartment, the goddamn honeymoon plans. I didn't hold back. I even sent screenshots of our texts, our engagement photos, the venue contract with both our names on it. And then, silence. For hours. Then she called me. I didn't even think, just picked up. Her voice was shaking. At first she couldn't even speak. Then she said, he told me he was on a consulting project in another city. For 2 years. 2 years. He told her he was flying back and forth, working long hours, trying to build a future. That's why he missed birthdays, holidays, school plays. That's why he didn't FaceTime often, because the reception was bad. She bought it. Because when someone looks you in the eyes and says they love you, you believe them. Just like I did. We were both crying by the end of that call. I found out everything. The kids were real, the marriage was real. He had started seeing me when things were rocky at home. She had just given birth to their second child. He told her I was just a work friend when she saw my name on his phone once. She didn't know he'd proposed to me. She didn't know he was planning a wedding behind her back. I could feel her breaking on the other end of the line. And it made me rage. Not at her, at him. This wasn't just betrayal. This was demolition. He had built 2 entire lives, parallel, and never expected them to crash into each other. But I made sure they did. I posted everything, not in a petty way, not to humiliate her, but to expose him. Screenshots, photos, the note he left behind, our engagement shoot, the seating chart, the venue brochure with our initials printed on it. I put it all on a burner account. I didn't care anymore, and it spread like wildfire. Mutual friends were stunned. Some didn't believe it, until the wife confirmed it herself. His cousin messaged me to say he'd always seemed off. One of his groomsmen called to apologize for ever defending him. He tried to reach out once, just once, from a new number. The message said, "I messed up. I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't mean to hurt you." I didn't reply. What do you even say to a man who tried to marry you while tucking his real children into bed every night? She left him, packed the kids up, took them to her sister's, filed for divorce. I don't know the legal details, but she told me she's keeping everything she can, the house, the car, full custody. Good. Let him rot in the empty space between the lives he tried to juggle. I blocked his number, deleted every photo, packed up everything that reminded me of him and dumped it in a storage bin. But some things I'll never get back. Like the version of me that believed in him. It's been over a year now. Sometimes I still wake up at 3 a.m. with my heart racing, thinking I hear his key in the door. Phantom memory, trauma echo, whatever you want to call it, it still happens, but less than before. I moved out of that apartment 3 months after everything happened. I couldn't breathe in those walls anymore. Every cabinet, every shadow held a ghost version of him, of me, the woman I was when I believed in us. Therapy helped. At first, I just sat in silence during sessions. Number embarrassed. Angry at myself for being that girl, the one who didn't see it coming. But eventually, I started talking, started naming things, gaslighting, emotional isolation, grooming, because that's what it was. He didn't just lie. He made me feel crazy for questioning it. It took time, but I stopped blaming myself. I also stopped waiting for closure. He never explained, never apologized, never showed up at my door with answers. And maybe that's the only real truth I needed, that someone who could do what he did was never going to be the kind of man who takes accountability for it. The last I heard, he moved to a different state, tried to start over. I don't keep tabs. His wife, ex-wife now, and I exchanged a few messages after the dust settled. We were never friends, but there was a strange, quiet bond between us. 2 strangers caught in the same explosion. She told me once, I wish I could unknow him. I said, me too. But the reality is we can't. You don't just forget someone who almost rewrote your entire future with lies. You learn to carry them differently. For a long time, I thought I'd never trust again. I built walls, made jokes about being happily single, rolled my eyes at every rom-com, but deep down, I was just scared. And then, one day it didn't come with fanfare. No big moment. Just a quiet morning when I realized I hadn't thought about him in weeks. I was sipping coffee on my balcony, barefoot, in a new apartment that felt like mine, and I felt okay. Not fixed, not perfect, but okay. Sometimes healing is just waking up and realizing the rage is gone, that you're not checking his name online, that you've stopped rehearsing what you'd say if he ever showed up again. Sometimes closure is choosing peace over answers. I didn't get my wedding. I didn't get the life I planned, but I got myself back. And honestly, that's more than he ever deserved.